Good morning, dear Stitchers. It's Judy with JBW Designs, and I want to welcome you back to my floss tube video. Let's see, today is August 15th, and this is floss tube number 80. And so I'm really making this floss tube today for two different audiences, and that's why it's going to be fairly short, and I'll explain what the reason for that is. So generally my floss tube videos and subscribers are individuals who just love to cross stitch, and I want to say, as always, welcome. I love your comments and your notes and your emails, but today I am also going to pivot towards my shop owners. And the reason for that is that we are doing, or there is going to be starting next Friday, a week from tomorrow, a needlework marketplace. And this is an online wholesale show. And so shop owners come into our booth, as I explained before. They see what we have that is new, and they place orders, and it's wonderful. It works out beautifully. So I can stay home in my pajamas if I want to, and just place orders and fill orders. I forgot to do one thing here. It's probably going to drive us crazy, but we're going to have to let it go. So anyhow, I today am going to focus on my new designs, and I will make another video hopefully in 2 weeks, and it will be my usual longer one, and I'll explain all of the wonderful kindnesses that have been shown to me in the last couple weeks. So thank you for joining me this morning. There are 7 new releases, and I'm going to go through them, as I say, fairly quickly. The reason that they're shorter is that the shop owners have over 100 vendors, and if each one of us makes a video, they just don't have a lot of time to look through and see in person what we have, but I know that that makes a difference. So one other thing that I want to say to you, so I don't forget, is that if you see designs or a design that you want to order, I would suggest that you call either your local shop or a shop in your region or an online store, because they are so grateful to know ahead of time what kinds of numbers they need to order of certain designs. So it really helps them out a lot. So I'm going to start with the first one, and I will tell you that my focus today was all on Christmas. I know that probably sounds goofy, but I feel like it will be here before we know it. So, and many of my designs this time are actually quite small, which in a way I think is a positive note, because people don't generally have a lot of time. So a lot of these, I'm hoping, will make great gifts. So the first one, and I'm going to show you models, of course, and tell you fabrics. This is called Enchanted Village. I stitched it over 2 on a 36 count fabric, antique white, and then I've stitched this one on a 28 count fabric, again on a white. This is with 1 thread. This also was stitched actually with 1 ply of floss. And let's see, I don't have the booklets yet, so I can at least show you the cover of the booklet. Let's see, let's hold up the cover and the design itself. You can see that it's been finished as a flat. It actually could be finished as a 3-dimensional stockings. I love the designs over 1. For some reason, they look so crisp when they're in that format. This was stitched in, let's see, Romance, and I always give, which is from Weeks Dye Works, and I always give DMC equivalents. So that's the first one. The next one, let's see, I'm going to reach back here and grab the models. You know how much I love my alphabets. People tease me, but I was a former teacher. Is that why I love doing alphabet designs so much? I'm not sure. But this one actually was so much fun to design. This is called Fleur de Noel. And again, I stitched 2 models of this. And what I tried to do in this design is include a number of different very elegant fonts And then I also looked for motifs that spoke Christmas to me. So I did wreaths and swags and bows, and I tried to include so many of those as part of the design. Let me show you that up close. This was finished by my professional finisher. She did a beautiful job with a little ribbon and a snowflake charm, and this was the backing of it. But of course I always like to do a couple of versions. So I did a second version. Let me grab this. And this one I did in greens. And you know from watching me before that I love seeing what my customers choose to stitch the designs in. It doesn't matter to me. Change it any way you want. It would look gorgeous in reds, in a deeper green, and a real dark forest green. So let me tell you a little bit more about this design and what it was stitched on. I'll grab the booklet. So this booklet is actually, when it's printed, it's going to be this size, but it opens up to an 8.5 by 11 because the chart is fairly large and I wanted it to be clear. So the chart takes up the whole inside of the booklet. So then it folds down twice, and it folds to show you another picture of the model. Of course, it gives you all the instructions that you need to know. So this was stitched on a 37 count Russian tea cake, which is a beautiful fabric from Excess Commodities. And let's see, I stitched both of them on the same fabric. The finished size is about almost 5.5 by 8.5. And so you can see that it can be finished as a pillow or framed. The frame incidentally came from Michael's, and it wasn't too costly. So this is what Fleur de Noel is going to look like. And I hope in the future to see many versions from you all doing this design. Let me try to set these back here. Looks a little iffy, doesn't it? The next one that I want to tell you about, I didn't tell you the fibers for that one. It's worked, each one is in only 2 fibers. I worked that in Weeks Romance and a very pale DMC pink. And then the green version was worked in English Ivy and Eve's Leaves, which are from Classic Color Works. So moving on along, this was another fun one. Of course, I enjoy designing, so every time I pull one up, I say, oh, I really enjoyed doing this, and I did. So this is actually a set of 4 designs, and I can show you the front of the booklet here in a minute. This is going to be called Petite Christmas Village. And so there are actually 4 different designs that I did for this series. It's all in one booklet. And each of the buildings have been decorated for Christmas. So here's the little Christmas church. They all have usually boughs and decorated trees and little wreaths. And incidentally, I did the wreaths in a number of different ways. I used French knots, but you could substitute beads because sometimes French knots are tricky for people to do. So let's see, what fabric was this stitched on? Now I remember. These are all done on a 36 count atomic ranch. So let me show you that up close. And again, these are fairly simple to do. I don't think they take that long to stitch. And I had another idea for each one of them, but I'm remembering it as I'm showing this one. I think it would be wonderful if you were making this as a gift to put a date up at the top, or maybe the family's street address, or maybe initials for the person that you're giving it to. So that is one of the 4. Here's a second one. Here's a little Christmas house, all decorated. As they say, they're so much fun to do, and I will talk about the finishing probably in my next video, but these were just finished on rounds from Hobby Lobby. If you can't find those, I'm going to encourage you to go to Chantel 141 because she has beautiful finishing supplies, and she carries rounds, and they would look beautiful. So these were just finished with fabric and then mounted. The design was mounted, and then it was mounted on another disc. And of course, then I added the ribbons. All right, the third design in this series is a little schoolhouse. And again, there's room for initials, etc. And then the fourth is a little barn. It has little tiny sheep down there. Those two are worked in French knots, but you could work those, of course, in beads. So I always talk about that in the directions. So again, I don't have the finished booklet. They are, good news, they are at the printer. So this is what the cover of the booklet will look like. It's actually one of, if you can picture this, it's actually a 4-fold booklet. So you get the picture, of course, the description. On some of the other pages, there are special instructions for each of the pieces, and the charts are on the inside. So each panel of that 4 has just one chart on it. So I'm very pleased with how that turned out. I like them to be crisp and easy to read. So the next one is something, it's another stocking. You're going to see today I had stockings on the brain. This one was so much fun to design. I've been wanting to do something like this for quite a while, and I actually had it on my list for last year, but this year I got it done, and I did a Quaker stocking. And it took quite a bit of time actually for me to get all the elements balanced, etc. But I love the way it turned out. So this is the Quaker stocking, and it is worked over 2 on a 36 count fabric. I used an antique white linen. Again, it was just finished as a flat. And then of course I had to do it over 1, and that was done on a 28 count linen. The only thing about this one that I will say, I had this finished, but if I were to finish it again myself, I would bring in the edges of this just a little tighter here. And I always give my stitchers a little hint. Once you stitch your design, to find out what the template should be, just put it on your printer, make a copy, and then that becomes the template for your finishing. So again, this is the Quaker stocking. This was worked in, again, in romance. I must have been in a pink mood this time. And again, this is what the booklet looks like. And let's see, is there anything else I should let you know? I think that's about it on that one. All right, let's see. Next on my list is, I always say this one, I love doing these. Last year I released a sampler stocking, and you know, there's so many of us who are sampler lovers out there, and it was so popular I thought I want to do another one. So I did. And this is Sampler Stocking 2. And of course it had to have a red house. It had to have borders, which were fun to chart and design. And then of course I had to choose reindeer. And surprisingly, reindeer are found on quite a few antique samplers and trees. So they're all of the elements for an antique stocking. So again, I worked this one over 2 on a 36 count fabric. This is the color flax. And then I worked this one. I have to double check because I think I did it. Yes, this one I changed up a bit. This one over 1 I did on a 25 count Dublin. And for those of you who don't think you could do over 1, I think if you chose a larger count fabric rather than the 28, you could do a 22 or a 25. I think you would find it a little easier. And the over 1s are just delightful to do. As I've mentioned before, this was finished as a flat with a pretty lining on the back of both of those. And this is what the Sampler Stocking 2 booklet looks like. And again, this will be a small booklet like many of mine have been in the past. All right, let's see. How am I doing here? I think I'm doing well. I have to just find all the pieces, right? So the 6th one in the series today is called Schoolhouse in the Round. And I've been meaning to do this one for a long time. First of all, everyone in my family, or my husband's family and ours, were teachers. My husband and I were both teachers. His parents were both teachers. I have such respect for how hard it is to be a teacher. So I wanted to do something to honor teachers, and it felt fall-like too, to do a schoolhouse. So once again, I chose all of the motifs that I could think of that would go with an old-fashioned schoolhouse. And so there's a bicycle and a swing, and of course ABC 1, 2, 3, a flag, the key. There's some of these sometimes people don't know what they are. This is a tiny little pencil. There's a ruler right here. Of course, apple, scissor, heart, books. All the fun things that I could think of that would go with an old-fashioned. So let me tell you the details about this one. Schoolhouse in the Round, let's double check here, was stitched on a 36 count antique white linen. It only has 2 colors in it, and the second one might be a little hard to see. So I chose a red, and then I chose kind of a salmony pink, because there are little motifs that fill in, if you've done my rounds before, you know that fill in the spaces around the motifs. And I love the way this was finished. I carry these scalloped rounds. They're from the B Company, and then it was just mounted on a pretty complementary fabric, and then another disc was mounted with the finished piece. So I just think that is so sweet. And of course I had to do it over 1, and the over 1 was done on, let's see, that was done on a 25 also. And this was a white Lugana. And you can see how clear the little motifs are. So that is the 6th, I have trouble saying that, don't I, one in the series. And now the one that I am really anxious to show you. I've been talking about it for a while, and some of you who've been watching my videos, especially the last one, know what is coming. But I have done over the years a series. I'm going to lift this up because it's actually quite heavy, and I'm going to try to balance it here while I talk to you. So let's see if whoops, let me move it a little bit here. I wanted to show you, so there are 15 stockings that I have done in this Sing-a-Song series. I can kind of hold it up like that so you can see the whole thing. And these were all published as separate booklets. And it's kind of costly, actually, to buy, even 10 of the designs separately. And so I've been thinking, I'm going to set this down because it's hard for me to talk and to balance this window. So I had this idea that I wanted to combine all of them into one booklet. And I am absolutely loving the way it turned out. In fact, when I went to the printer yesterday to check the proofs, there was a fellow there that had worked there before, and he came back and he said, "Judy, I don't remember you doing booklets like this." And I said, "Well, I haven't done very many." He said, "It's beautiful." So this is what the cover looks like, and this is going to be a big booklet. It has 18 pages, double-sided. The cover, of course, just shows one of the designs, and it's going to be called just the Sing-a-Song of Christmas Stockings, and all 15 designs are in here. Now, one of the things I want to tell you about is photographing. I photographed each stocking separately, and that was so much fun. So if you can picture this, it was July. I was down in the basement pulling out all my bins of Christmas decorations, but I wanted to find ornaments and wreaths and just other little things that I collect so that I could have just a beautiful vignette and photograph for each individual stocking. So what I like about this booklet is that, I'm going to open it up so you can see. So each stocking has its own large photograph. And then on the page on the other side of the stocking, it has a very large chart, it has the color code, and any special instructions for stitching. So, and then if you look at the back of the booklet, you'll be able to see all 15 designs. So I'm very excited about this release. I hope the shops are excited. I hope the people who watch my floss tube are excited about it. And I will have all of my new books, keep your fingers crossed, in hand by hopefully next Tuesday, although I don't start shipping any orders until the end of the show. I need to be fair to everyone. So as I mentioned, contact your shop if you're interested. To my shops, I am going to put out a newsletter in the next 2 days. Again, keep your fingers crossed. As you know, my tech abilities are limited. And then for any of you who want to contact me, the best way is email, and it's judy@jbwdesigns.com. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you, keep your fingers crossed on that too, in a couple weeks if things aren't too hectic. So bye for now. Have a good week. Bye-bye.